Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be making a slightly different type of a video. The previous one was about my life within the organization of the Jehovah's Witnesses and how it affected me negatively throughout my childhood and even into my adulthood. And I was reading a lot of XJW stories and watching some more YouTube videos, and I noticed that there were, what I love about reading all the different stories is everyone has a different kind of way that they reacted to the lifestyle that they were brought up in. And although there was a lot that was negative about it, while being in it, I was very happy. And I thought I would touch on that for a moment. I had a very happy childhood. I never felt like I was excluded or like I was in need of anything. Even when it came to like the holidays at school, I did read that quite a bit of you felt that you were kind of left out, and I totally understand what that feels like. I understand how it would affect a child to have to leave the room while the rest of his, schoolmates are celebrating something that looks really fun. And for some reason, I don't know why, I never really felt that excluded by it. I think what might have helped is in the school that we went to, both my brothers and I attended it. So anytime there was a holiday, not so much birthdays, because birthdays are celebrated on different days depending on who's in your class, but on holidays, all three of us would go to the library and we would get together and joke around, hang out, just be brothers. And I think that's why I probably didn't feel so left out. And I feel so bad for those that did feel that way, because that is a terrible feeling, especially to feel as a child. But I didn't have that experience myself, and there may be a few of you that also had that similar experience where you didn't really feel like not celebrating the holidays was a big deal. I also might have helped that my parents were, we were fortunate enough to where my parents were able to, I guess provide for us sporadically, gift-wise, I guess is what I'm saying. While kids at school would have to wait for their birthdays or they'd have to wait for Christmas to get something, we were treated with gifts, sporadically throughout the year for no apparent reason, which kind of made it even more fun. And my parents did also get us gifts during their anniversary, which was awesome. They would always tell us that to have a functional or a successful family, everyone needed to pitch in, and to help run things smoothly, the kids needed to behave and the parents needed to, be on the same page. So they would, reward us as well during their anniversary. And I thought that was really sweet. As for birthdays, even though we didn't celebrate birthdays, my mom had this awesome tradition. We would always have dinner together as a family, which is something I kind of miss. Now that I'm an adult, I try to see if there's a way that maybe me and my boyfriend or fiance can have dinner together at the table, but that never seems to work out. We're always kind of tired and would rather just, eat somewhere else, in the living room, bedroom, whatever. Anyways, as a family, we would eat around the dinner table and talk about our day. And anytime it happened to be a birthday of one of us, my mom had this really awesome tradition that she would tell our birth story, which sounds kind of gross, but it's not. So she wouldn't go into the details, but she would tell us, what day it was, what the weather was like, what she was doing. For my brothers, what my dad was doing at the time, how she felt, and when they went to the hospital, and all these cool little details. And every year she would tell us. And every year, regardless of if it was, my brother's turn or my turn, I just remember like really, really feeling, I don't know, it's like a sense of importance. Like, it's kind of hard to explain. Like it didn't really feel like a tradition, but it was a tradition. It was just something that I really looked forward to, because you could really see like the love in my mom's eyes as she would tell us the story. And my dad was always a man of few words, so he would kind of just sit there and laugh at little points, that my mom would say. But you could tell that he was also kind of reminiscing fondly of those days. So yeah, we had a lot of really good stories and a lot of good memories in our childhood. They were also pretty supportive when it came to certain activities. So in my last video, I had mentioned that extracurricular activities were like, nah, not happening. But I do remember that when my brothers were both younger, like really young though, like T-ball age, they were put in some kind of, I think it was T-ball actually. I remember one of them having like a little baseball outfit, which was really cute. I want to say they both hated sports, so it didn't last long, but it could have been also because my dad wasn't like fully in at that time. But they were able to have that experience of joining a little league team, and that was really cute. When we got older, I think they might have sensed, my parents might have sensed that we wanted some kind of extracurricular activity, but they didn't really want us spending a lot of time with worldly people. So they got us lessons, like guitar lessons. Well, everyone had a different instrument. So I had the bass guitar, and one of my brothers had the drums, and the other one played guitar. He had an electric guitar. So that was fun. That was something we would do every Friday. We would go to our lesson, and then afterwards as a family, we would go to some restaurant and eat out. And that was really awesome too, growing up as a kid. We were pretty fortunate that my parents were able to provide, music lessons for us. Another great thing that I thought was probably different also within our family is we didn't get guilted into going to Bethel, for example. Although our parents wanted us to be, pioneers, for example, for me, because I'm a woman and that's all I'd be able to do. I was able to pioneer every now and then, but there wasn't a lot of sense of you need to pioneer if you're going to be living under my roof. Nothing like that. I did it when I could, and then when I couldn't because of work, then as long as I did what I could, that was enough. And the same for my brothers. They did what they could in the congregation. They would give their talks at the theocratic school, which I think they don't do anymore, right? I'm not quite sure. But they would do theocratic talks, and none of them ever got to be ministerial servants. And thankfully, my parents never made them feel bad for not getting to that point. Once we became older and we each got married, we each moved out of the house, we very much so dwindled and didn't do a lot in the congregation. And they also, they were kind of, I don't want to say disappointed, I'm sure they were, but they didn't make us feel like we were a disappointment to them. So I feel like the aspects of our childhood that were not negative were mainly my parents just being freaking cool parents, because they really are amazing people. And I have so many fond memories of just being in a very happy household. The negative, I think the happy parts of our lives were so big that I didn't really think of the other aspects as being negative. So not being able to go to college wasn't really that big of a deal for me at that moment, because I felt like I was doing the right thing. And it just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's once I'm out, once I left and I thought back as to the reasons why I felt so restricted, it wasn't until I had kind of washed away that indoctrination. So yeah, the last video was very much so my life sucked, but it really didn't. It was just kind of realizing how I didn't even know how brainwashed I was until I stepped away from it. But for the most part, my childhood was amazing. The things that I have had the hardest time dealing with now that I've left the religion is not knowing how to make friends, because I left when I was 35, a couple of years ago, and I had one person that I could text, and I'm still friends with her now, thankfully. Other than that, I really had a hard time, because I had thought I was doing the right thing and had my workmates at a distance. I think twice I went out with workmates, but not very often, because I didn't want to give them the impression that this was a normal occurrence and I would be hanging out with them all the time. So once I got out, my first inclination was to reach out to them, but I felt bad because I thought, man, what am I supposed to say? Hey guys, remember all those times you would invite me out for drinks and hangouts after work and all those lame excuses I gave. Well, hey, I kind of want to hang out now. That's dumb. I felt bad. So I kind of had to start all over. And thankfully, I was able to make friends with a lot of the existing friends that my boyfriend had. He has a lot of really good friends, and they quickly became mine as well. And from there, it kind of branched off, and I just met new people. So I'm building my support system. So it is possible, but it was very difficult. It was a little, it was hard to think that life was possible outside of the organization when all you have is your organization. So as scary as it seems to have to make friends, believe me, it's possible. Also, reconnecting with family members that are not witnesses that you perhaps pushed away your whole life. That's another difficulty, another thing that I had a hard time with, reaching out to them, because you have that need for family and you know your family's there, but you also, like the workmates, you feel bad that you never went to any of the Christmas events they had, or if they had Easter, or if it was someone's birthday and they invited everybody, you didn't go to any of these events. So you kind of rejected them in a way, or at least in your thinking you kind of rejected them. And I think in maybe your family members thinking, they didn't feel the rejection, they just kind of didn't know what was going on. So now that I've been a little more vocal about leaving, a lot have come forward and were like, we had no idea, and you know, we'll always love you and you always have our support, which was making me cry every time I read those messages. Even now, it's still a little hard to like reach out and say, hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? I'm working myself up to be better at that, but it's hard to do that when you haven't really established a rapport with them. You've seen them maybe once every couple of years for a wedding or a funeral, and that's it. And it feels really shitty, like trying to implement them in your life when you really don't know how to connect with them because you've been so lame this whole time and not done anything with them. Those are the two hardest things that I've had to deal with. A third thing I wanted to talk about. I've had a hard time finding encouragement within myself, regardless of how many people you have in your life that tell you you could do whatever you want, this is your life now, you have your whole life ahead of you, you can start fresh, you can be whoever you want. It's still hard for me to find that encouragement within myself. For example, now that I'm regretting not going to college, I could still go to college. I'm 37. I'll be 37 in 2 days. I'm old, older, but I'm not like super, super old. And I just saw like a Facebook story of this 2-year-old lady that got her college degree. So I could totally do it. It's just telling myself that I could totally do it and like taking that step. It's scary. It's scary to try something at a much older age and not think that you're gonna fail or give up. That feels really shitty. Another thing too is, I don't know if it was because of the Jehovah's Witness religion, but I have a hard time committing to things. I feel like it was the mentality that we had before where like the more you give, the more they expect. So you'll do 10 hours of preaching per month, when you're like 12. And then they're like, okay, well now try to get 12 the next month. And so, you keep going, and the more you give, they're like, okay, well how about you do 20? And now we have evening witnessing. So if you go during the evening for 2 hours, then you can bump your hours, and it's just like it never ends. So the same thing, I feel like it's creeping into my normal life now, to where if I commit to going to college, that I'm going to be asked for more and more. And what if I can't give more? Like, what if I just wanted to try it out and see if I liked it? And after like 2 electives, I was just like, nah, it's not for me. That's a little scary. But other than that, it gets better, guys. It's a little scary, and there's going to be times where it feels like, what am I even doing with my life? But that's, I've realized, is a part of life. Everyone goes through that. It's not because you left Jehovah and now you don't have his Holy Spirit and you're doomed. It's not that. It's life. It's you figuring yourself out. And you're going to hit some bumps in the road, but you're going to pick yourself up and you're going to be fine. And that's the thing. We were never taught that we were going to be fine. We were always taught that if anything wrong happened, it's because we weren't in line with Jehovah's will. That wasn't it. Another thing I wanted to bring up real quick before I end this video is there have been a few people that have reached out to me just wanting to, talk to someone that knows what they're going through. They thought they were alone in these feelings, and you guys are so not alone in this particular, stage of your life of knowing that something is amiss, not knowing if you want to fully investigate it, or already investigating it, knowing the truth, but not wanting to take that leap and living your life the way you want to live it. What I have noticed is the common thread in that is fear. Fear of the unknown, because we've always been told what the world is like according to the witnesses, and it's terrible. So not knowing what the real world is pretty scary, because you've only been fed these negative images. So it's really hard to picture yourself having a positive life when all you've been fed is negativity. There's also fear of taking your first step, which is like me going to college. You know what you would like to do, but it's taking that initial first step to get you in the trajectory that you want to go. That's hard to do. And the reason it's hard to do for most people is because you don't have that source of encouragement. Most people, and I would have to say most people outside of like cult-like religions, have this kind of a support group from their parents or their best friends or their spouses, their siblings, someone that is like totally on their side, Team Ceci all the way. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. You have, the capability, you have the courage, you have people on your side that are literally rooting for you. And when people leave the organization and lose their family and friends, they don't have anyone rooting for them. And not having someone on your side is really, it's disappointing. It's really hard to envision yourself doing well when no one's rooting for you. But when you have people rooting for you, then you start to like feed off of their energy, their positivity, and you can see yourself, you know what, maybe I can. And if I can't, whatever, at least I tried, because I would have never tried it before. So my suggestion to these people that feel like they are a bit stuck in their life right now is maybe create like an alias, but do a Facebook page and join ex-cult members or ex-Jehovah's Witness groups, because it helps. YouTube videos are great, but when it comes to different topics that maybe you're having a hard time with, like holidays, or your parents shunning you and you not knowing what to do, or having a spouse that's fully in, but you are definitely awake, sorry, and you don't know how to have that kind of, what do you do in your marriage when you're an equal yoke, when one believes and one doesn't? There's tons of posts on these groups that have encouraging words, suggestions, and sometimes just people saying, I am so sorry for you, my heart goes out to you, hugs, cute stuff like that, that just thinking about it, like you don't think it makes a big deal, like a big difference, but it does. It makes a huge difference to throw your thoughts out there into the interwebs and to have so many people say, hey man, I know what that feels like. It's a huge, huge relief. So create an alias if you don't want your legit name to go out there, because when you join these groups, although your posts aren't visible to everyone that you're friends with, like your witness family, if they were to, for some reason, look up the group, they can see members' names and they'll see yours. So if you don't feel comfortable being outed, then create an alias. But I do recommend joining these groups because you'll get a lot of support and you'll get sometimes you'll get different perspectives, and that's what we need at times, to get a different perspective. So that's all I have for today. I am going to be making another video, hopefully this week. I'm away from home. I'm out of town on business for a whole week. So I don't have the pet distractions. I don't have the roommates distractions. I'll be able to hopefully have time in the next, 4 days to do another couple of videos. One that I definitely want to do soon, I don't know if I'll get time to do it this week, is going to be a video in Spanish, because I have had a couple of requests of people that have mentioned there aren't a lot of representation in the Spanish culture for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And I totally get it, because our culture is very different. It's very, you're submissive and you respect your elders and you don't talk negatively about Jehovah or the Witnesses. That's not something that Hispanics do. So I'm going to take my last video that I did, and I'm halfway through. Actually, I'm more than halfway through, but I'm translating it and typing it out. And I'm going to have to read it, guys, because my Spanish is quite rusty. I was in the Spanish congregation from when I was like 5 until I got married, so at 22. But it's like white girl Spanish, and I can carry a conversation, but I don't know slang. I don't know jokes in Spanish. I'm not good at that. So I'm gonna read it just to make sure that people can understand what I'm saying. But that will hopefully be a video I'll put up in the next week or two, hopefully sooner, because I really want to get that out there and get it going. And I think there was one other video I wanted to do on a different subject, but we'll go into that later. So thank you so much for all the support. I did not think I was going to be getting as many views as I've been getting, and I appreciate every single one of them and all the comments you guys have made. I try to reply back, so if I haven't gotten to you fast enough, I apologize, but I try to respond to every single one, and every single one of you. But I am just amazed that so many people have looked at my video, and thank you so much. So I'll be back in a couple of days with another video. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.